You know, one of the things that I've noticed on social media lately is people wanting to know how to be more charming. And I've been thinking about that over the last few days, about what does make someone charming. And I think we can all focus on the way that we look, the way that we dress, the way that we present ourselves to the world. But when I think about some of the most charming people that I've ever met, the qualities that they have really have nothing to do with any of those things. It's more about an innate sense of being that just flows out of them, and they become and present themselves as this really beautifully charming person. It's a rare gift, and it's something that I wanted to talk about today with you all. So I'm going to share a few things that I've noticed about truly charming people, what makes them special, and how we can all take a few of those pointers to add into our own lives so that we can all be a little bit more charming as well. Now you may be thinking, why would I want to be more charming? And it's a good question. Maybe you don't. But I just think we live in a very harsh, tough world where there is a lot of bad stuff going on. So to be charming is actually something quite nice. And the great thing about it is that we can all be charming. You don't need money, you don't need social status, you don't need class, you don't need wealth. You just need to be you. And that is why I think it's such a nice thing that we can all do it. We can all work on it. And when you add kindness into the world, it's just doing your little bit to make the world a more beautiful place to be. And I think that is one of the best things that you can do whilst you're here on Earth. So the first thing that I've noticed about really charming people is that they make everybody else feel really interesting. It's very, very fascinating. I've been to social events, parties. There are people there who are dressed extravagantly. You can tell they've really thought about what they're wearing. But the most magnetic person in the room is often the most simple. They're the one who is charming everybody by asking them questions, really being interested in their lives. Perhaps they're meeting up with someone who they've met before, and they're not best friends, but they've remembered that they have a daughter who's called Jessica, and she's in her 3rd year at school and she was struggling, and they ask, how's Jessica getting on at school? And then the other person is feeling, wow, this person really remembers who I am. They've made me feel special. That person is so charming. And the wonderful thing is, the charming person is not even mentioning anything about themselves. They just want to know about the other person. It's so charming, so wonderful, and a real gift to be able to walk into a room and want to know about everybody else rather than talking about yourself. It's something that I've thought about a lot over the years, and it's actually something quite difficult to do. When someone is telling you a story about them, it's really, really hard not to think about something that relates to it in your life and make the whole thing about you. But truly charming people make the other person feel like truly the most interesting person in the world. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, I went to a dinner and I was sat next to this older guy who had never met me before. I'd never met him. We didn't know anything about each other, but we had the most fascinating conversation. And I think it was because we both truly took an interest in one another. I mentioned that my job was YouTube, and he found that completely fascinating, or so he made me believe. It may be that he didn't really care, but he was at this dinner. We had to sit next to each other for a few hours because it was a 6-course dinner, and he probably thought, I need to make the most of this situation. I'm here, I've elected my time, so I might as well make a great conversation with this person sitting next to me and find out about him. And he really did make me feel valued and special. And that is a very rare thing. I've been to so many of these dinners where you sit next to somebody and they're just constantly talking and talking and talking. And I don't know who this person is, and I don't really know about their life. I've been to so many social things where people really just spend the whole time talking about them. And that's nice, but if you don't really know them especially, then it's difficult to connect with what they're saying. This man was asking me genuine questions about my job as a YouTuber. Oh, how often do you post? How do you come up with the inspiration for the videos? Is it really difficult to constantly find new things to do? Is it really hard to edit all of your videos by yourself? Do you not want to get anybody else to help you? Oh, give me the name of your channel, I'd love to see it. Somebody being very interested in what I do, and as I say, he might not really give a damn, but in that evening he made me feel great and special and valued, and that is what being charming is really all about for the first rule. Make everybody else feel special and interesting. You will be so charming. My next point is again something to do with a social situation. So a very truly charming person will always notice the person standing alone and make them a part of the group. This is something that I think is so kind and sweet to do. If you're at a party, a wedding, a function, anything, you are guaranteed to notice that there's always one or two people who are hovering slightly out of a friendship circle, perhaps spending a little too much time at the drinks cabinet, at the drinks bar, or being absorbed in their phone when they're probably just reading through old text messages because they feel a bit awkward. Have you ever done that? I definitely have. I've scrolled through my phone because I'm feeling slightly awkward and not really knowing what to do in a situation. A truly charming person picks up on that person and invites them into the group. It's so simple. You have an advantage because you know a lot of the people there. So just take a moment to notice that person. Say, hello, how are you? What's your name? I'm so-and-so. Who are you here with today? Oh, you don't really know that many people. Come and sit with us. Tell us about yourself. The person will feel instant relief. They'll be invited in. They don't have to pretend to be awkwardly on their phone. They don't have to linger around the bar. And then a conversation starts up and that person feels, oh, how nice, I'm at this party, I don't really know anybody, but this very kind person has brought me into the group and now I can integrate. And it just takes that one moment of breaking the ice and then you are brought in and you feel, oh, this is going to be okay. It's happened to me a few times where someone's invited me in and instantly everything is so much better. And I know it's very difficult, even if you are the person who is in the advantageous position of knowing everybody at the party and you feel comfortable and relaxed. It is hard to speak to new people, but just put yourself out of your comfort zone. Think about the other people in the room who are perhaps not so fortunate to be knowing everybody there, who probably feel a little bit awkward. And I promise you, you're going to be so charming. The third thing that I want to talk about charming people is that they always remember names, and if they don't, they handle it in a very graceful, charming way. It goes back to my first point about making people feel special. And remembering names is one of those things that can be really, really difficult. I have done it so many times when I've walked into a room of people that I don't know and everybody introduces themselves, and as soon as they've said their name, I've completely forgot because I'm kind of trying to listen to everything, trying to keep up, trying to be charming and nice and friendly, and I'm not really listening to what they're saying. So if you can remember someone's name and then use it in conversation, not overkill, you don't want to be saying it after every sentence, but just to let them know that you've picked up on their name and you know their name, my God, it is so, so charming. I have a really great tip to help you with this, something that I read in a magazine years ago. I've adopted it and it really is so helpful with remembering names. When someone tells you their name at an event or a party, immediately associate it with the name of a celebrity. So for example, if someone says to you, hello, I'm Nicole, you say, Nicole Kidman, Nicole Kidman, Nicole Kidman. And then you will forever remember the other person's name. That's Nicole, Nicole Kidman. And it's just such a simple thing, but I promise you it really does work. And it doesn't matter how many people are in a group that have just told you their name. If you can come up with a celebrity's name to associate them with, you're going to remember everybody's name. It just works. So if you're ever struggling or have struggled in the past, I know I have, with remembering names, that's a really, really great tip. And then, as I said, if you can just drop their name in once more. So Nicole, what do you do for work? It's so simple. Nicole knows that you know her name. That's very sweet. He knows my name. And you are instantly charming. Now, if you do forget someone's name, there are some graceful ways to deal with it. You can either be very open and say, oh, I'm absolutely hopeless with names. Remind me again, I'm so sorry. Simple. Or you can kind of blag your way through. One of the great ways that I've seen someone do this is they've been introducing me to somebody else and they're like, oh, remind me of your name again. And they say, it's Jennifer. No, not Jennifer, your last name. Oh, yeah, this is Jennifer so-and-so. So they didn't know her name was Jennifer. They were pretending that they wanted to find out her full name. And in doing so, they got to skip out of them not knowing what the name was. Pretty clever, but it works. The next thing I'd like to talk about charming people is how they treat people who can't do anything for them. Now, it's very easy to be in a social environment and be utterly charming with a group of people who you're perhaps trying to impress, or perhaps you're going to a business dinner and you really want to put on your best self and charm this person so that you can get what you were going for. But truly charming people treat everybody with love, care and respect and make them all feel seen. In my first point, I said that they make people feel special. Charming people will do that with waiters, taxi drivers, hotel staff, restaurant staff, maybe the guy who takes out the trash, picks up the trash from outside your house. They're charming with everybody because they know that being charming is just a nice thing to be. When I started making this video, I made the point of being more charming is a great way to add beauty and love into the world and just do a bit of good. And I really mean that. If you can be charming to someone who can't really do anything for you, then it's just going to add so much love and beauty into the world, and that's a great thing. I have been to lunches, dinners with people, and we're having the most wonderful conversation. I don't really know this person. It's often been a business meeting, and they appear very, very charming and kind, and then when the waiter comes to take their order, they're kind of dismissive, not even looking them in the eyes, or perhaps something took a little bit longer than planned, the drink didn't arrive quickly, and they will snap at them, "Excuse me, my drink." And that for me makes me go a bit cold. You see the true person with how they treat people who can't do anything for them. And that really is a big giveaway. So to be truly charming, you need to be charming with everybody, not just people you're trying to impress. Now, speaking of impressing people, one thing that I've noticed about truly charming people is that they don't try to impress you. You know, when they're conversing with you, chatting with you, telling you about themselves, they're not telling you all of the wonderful things they've achieved in life. They're not telling you about this big business deal that they've just landed, or how much money they made when they sold their house last year, or how many holidays they've had in the last 6 months. They're not interested in charming you. They're interested more in what you've got to say. So the most truly charming people, when they do start to talk about themselves, which they have to do at some point, it can't all just be an interview style conversation between you two, they're not going to land with all of those big extravagant things about themselves. They're going to be more subtle. They're going to be more laid back. They're going to be calm. I have a neighbour who lives close by in the area here in Edinburgh, and he is a very successful businessman. He was the CEO of a huge company, making millions and millions a year, homes all around the world. But when you meet him at the local pub, he's wearing shorts, very casual clothes, and he is just so normal, so kind, so sweet, very nice to everybody, wants to know about them, and you would never know he's this big, impressive person. And that to me is really, really charming. Equally, I know people who are perhaps just starting out, or they're just on their way to becoming successful, but they have to let everybody know all of their achievements. And it just kind of has the opposite effect, you know? It doesn't really come across as impressive or anything like that. It just comes across as being boastful, and that's not charming at all. Another thing I've noticed about charming people that I really, really like is that they can laugh at themselves. Now, we all have embarrassing moments. Something really embarrassing happened to me not so long ago. I was having a trip to the Netherlands with a new friend, and we were cycling along a canal, and I managed to fall in the canal, and I was so embarrassed. But I think the thing that made that moment so special and fun was that I was able to laugh at myself, even though I was in this ridiculous position of being soaking wet, drenched from head to toe with a bicycle in a canal. I just thought, you know what, this is a ridiculous thing. It's funny, we're going to have this memory for a long time. You need to laugh at yourself. There's going to be so many times when something embarrassing happens to you, especially at parties or big events. It's a guarantee for all of us, sadly, in this life, that we're going to make a fool of ourselves. But the quick way to turn this around and turn it in your favour is to be able to laugh at yourself. Just laugh, find the joke, find it funny. As long as you're not hurt or nothing bad's happened to you, take some humour in what's happened. Life is not so serious. Things like this happen all the time, and you will be so charming if you can just dust yourself off and laugh about it. Promise. A really lovely thing I've noticed about charming people is that they give compliments freely. Now, I don't mean, oh, you look nice, or bombarding somebody with compliments, but real, genuine compliments. Like, instead of saying, oh, you look nice, they say, wow, that's a really great pair of shoes. Where did you get them? You know, they're asking you a question. It's a great conversation starter. They're not just generalising about how you look. They've picked something that they really like and they're interested in, and they've noticed it and told you about it. It's so charming. Try it next time. When you meet somebody new, or perhaps somebody that you know, find something that you really do want to compliment them about and tell them. Again, it's one of those things where we can be a bit reserved and shy, especially here in the UK. We don't really give compliments easily, but it's such a lovely thing to do. We're all going through life just trying to get through. We all have a lot to deal with. It can be a harsh world. If you think something nice about someone, just tell them. It's a lovely, lovely thing to do. You'll make them feel great, and in return, you'll feel great yourselves. It's super charming. One of the things that I've noticed about really charming people is that they're great at telling a fantastic story. This is something that I personally would love to work on myself. Not because I want to be super charming and the most entertaining person in the room, but I can recognise in myself that I'm not the best at telling a compelling story. I've had things happen to me before that have been super interesting at the time when they happened to me in real life, and then when I'm trying to relay what happened to other people, it doesn't quite land, and it's a real skill to be able to take a story and turn it into a kind of performance so that you can express to everybody else how this unfolded and how it made you feel so that they understand it as well. It's a really difficult thing to do, but I think it takes a little bit of practice. One of the things I've noticed about super charming people is that they are great at doing this. They know the details to leave in, they know the details to leave out, they know how to pace the story, they know how to add humour into it, and then they know how to come to an ending that makes people shocked with what they've told them or burst out laughing. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing to be able to tell a story, but yes, it is one of those things that takes practice. It's something, as I said, that I'm working on, so as I discover new tips and tricks, I will probably make another video about this, how to be a great conversationalist and how to tell a really great story, because it is one of those things that just get you through life. To be entertained like that must be so fun. And I think the final thing that I'd say about charming people is that they just make other people feel comfortable. And I think that's what this whole thing comes down to. It's making you feel totally relaxed, totally at ease, and like you can be yourself. As I've mentioned before, I've been to tons of social events, parties, weddings, dinners, and I've sat next to people, and they're perfectly nice people, but we just haven't had a vibe, we just haven't clicked, and so it makes the hour or so that you're sitting next to them at dinner quite a performative, unrelaxed thing. We've all been there. I mean, it's not torturous, it's not hellish, but it's just not comfortable. And when you're sitting there for an hour or so, that's what you really want. And that's what I've always found to be the most wonderful evenings, are the ones where I'm sitting next to somebody, I've never met them before, but there's just this ease where we are vibing and having a wonderful conversation, and I like this person, and I just feel totally relaxed and calm and actually enjoy myself. And that is what a truly charming person can do. They can make you feel relaxed, calm, they don't make you feel judged, they make you feel like you can tell them things and it's going to be completely safe and they're not going to be silently judging you. That's what charming people do. So I think if you want to be more charming, take that message on board. How can you make the other person that you're talking to feel relaxed, at ease, like they can tell you things without being judged, and tell you things and you're going to enjoy what they have to say. So I guess it's just having an air of relaxed elegance, listening to what people say, making what people say feel important, remembering things that people have told you earlier on in the conversation, bringing it back to make the other person feel heard and seen, and just being kind and sweet. I think that's what being charming really comes down to in the end, making people feel comfortable and relaxed. And there's that whole thing between charisma versus charm. somebody who is very charismatic, you might leave the room thinking, wow, that person was so interesting. Whereas somebody who is charming, you will think, wow, that person really made me feel special, really gave me a good impression. And that's the difference. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little video. I really do love self-improvement, looking at myself and thinking about how I can be a better person for the world. I've said this a few times in the video, but it is a harsh world. It's a difficult world. We're all struggling in our own way to get through, whether you're rich or poor, young or old. We're going through things in our lives. And so for me, I always like to think, how can I move through the world and make other people feel good, which in turn will make me feel good? It's those little things. So for me, self-improvement is always about that. How can I be better for myself so that I can be better for the world as well? And I think being a more charming person is something that will not hurt and will actually be a great, great thing. So let me know what you thought of this video in the comments. I look forward to reading them as always. Hope you enjoyed this one. I will see you next time, but until then, take care. Bye-bye.